Hello, everybody. Hope everybody is all right. Let's get this to work, okay? And here we go. Sorry, running a little late, having a lot of stuff to do. Wanted to make sure that the International Radio Report show was sent in before we got live, so everything will be done, and I'll just have to have some barbecue after the show. So let's open a beer. So this is the beer today. Some Sleeman dark beer. That's what I'm having today. A little different from what I usually have. It's pretty good. And here we go. There we go. Cheers, everyone. Nice color. Not bad. Okay, everybody, welcome aboard. We can now start. This is the live shortwave show. We are here twice a week on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's 0 hours Universal Time. We are also here on Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern. That's 20 hours Universal Time. And we are here to talk about radio, listen to the radio, share about radio, and have fun with radio. We're going to talk about the propagation. We're going to talk about identifying stations correctly. Kind of little tips and tricks to try to help out. It often happens that people will report a station and it's not exactly that station. So we're actually gonna have examples here, tuning a station and identifying it live. I think that's gonna be the best way to test it out. What I use is eibispace.de website. Don't know this website. I'm just gonna post the link in the description, in the chat room. This is for the schedules. That's where I go. So, and at the same time, we're going to check HF Underground just in case some pirates. And we're going to actually check Preom and see if there's some number station activity. Yes, in 4 minutes, actually. 11,575. 11,575. In 4 minutes is supposed to have Morse code. And it's supposed to be a Russian number station. So I'm going to check it out here. So my name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, northeast part of North America. And we, of course, are here every week, twice a week, to talk about radio. And it's a fun and entertaining moment, I hope, for all of you. It's a great way to have people that, otherwise would be alone with their little hobby. This makes it kind of cool because this is not being alone. This is being able to share with others. And, you feel like there's other people like us, like you, like me, that actually listen to the radio out there. So it's really cool to be here and share with all of you. Um, we have a beautiful chat room where you can actually interact. All you need is a Gmail account, and people will be able to share and talk and answer questions or ask questions. It's the best place for newcomers to our hobby, honestly, because this is where we are going to answer any questions. Remember, there are no dumb questions. We all started someday. I did. Um, Probably a lot of you would have found that what the hell am I doing with all the things I did when I was young on the radio? Because I just didn't have any knowledge. And later I understood more. But, I didn't know nothing at first. I thought a realistic DX100 was a killer of a radio that is the most amazing thing in the world. Far from it. I just didn't know. Also, when all of this is over, we have a nice and fantastic group, which is the Facebook group. It is where all the party continues, where everybody shares, everybody has fun, and everybody just wants, to help out each other. So this is the place to be, and it's the same name as this channel name, official SWL channel. And here is the link. Just a second, guys, because I heard the doorbell and I'm waiting for a package. So I'll be there, and I'll be back in a couple of minutes. It probably is that. And I'm back. So it was a package. No, not a radio. So we were talking about the Facebook group. Great place to be. And this is where you can actually share with others during the week. It's one of the great times to continue the party and continue amongst friends, where we talk about radio. Okay, Tom the Xer, WPE2QED from Hudson Valley, New York. Jeff Williams, nice to have you here from Southwest Cornwall. Bobby Burgess in Morgan City, Louisiana, USA. WA5107SWL. OSR, nice to have you here from North Texas. Matt, MDK2 in Denver, Colorado. 45 unit. Nice to have you here from the Treasure Coast, Florida. Nick Amendel, nice to have you here from Romania. John Wayne, nice to have you here from Germany. Glenn, nice to have you here from an old soldier in Wisconsin. Neil Toombs, nice to have you here, Neil. M0CJM in the UK. Eyebrawler, nice to have you on board from Arkansas. Tom, nice to have you on board from Canada. Eric Cottrell, WB1HBU from the Boston, Massachusetts area on a nice sunny day. Pretty nice here too. Very sunny and very nice. It's upper 60s, about 18 Celsius, mid 60s roughly. Scott Granston, nice to have you here from Massachusetts, USA. Scott. Joe Rudman, nice to have you here from cool and wet Chicago area. Good day to stay inside and play radios. Cool. Kamagzi 76, nice to have you here from West Michigan. Catalan, nice to have you here from Germany. DE1CTL. Matt says was a high of 101 Fahrenheit, 38 Celsius on Saturday, and a low of 32 Fahrenheit, 0 Celsius Tuesday morning. Crazy, eh? That's the roller coaster of fall and roller coaster of spring. Also, it does that a lot. Crazy times. I saw, I think it was on the Weather Channel. They were showing, I think it's in Colorado. They were showing places where they had like record heat. And the next morning, it was white. There was a snow on the ground. Pierre Fradio, bonjour et bienvenue de la France. C'est toujours un plaisir de t'avoir parmi nous. J'espère que tu vas bien. Joe Tyson, nice to have you here from North Carolina. KM4WRQ is those that wonder what all of these things are. Well, there's a lot of amateur radio operators out there. So that's part of the amateur radio stuff. Let me just check the camera 2 seconds here. Let's put it a little more like this. And of course, some of them also have shortwave listening call signs. Keegan, nice to have you here. XN80Xer from Northwest Arkansas. Mark, nice to have you here from Midlands of the UK. Osakama, nice to have you here from Germany. James Johnson from Illinois. Marcus Antonio, nice to have you here. Yeah, the Friday show is always earlier. The Wednesday show is at 0 UT, 8 p.m. Eastern. But the Friday show is always at 4 p.m. Eastern. That's 20 UT. David, KJ4CMY, nice to have you on board. Has a permanent antenna up. Woohoo, that's cool. Keegan has Tazo T. Cool. Northern Dawn, nice to have you on board. And tried to record a downlink of the International Space Station on Wednesday when it passed over. It's passing in the middle of the night here, so that's why I haven't been receiving it. But I want to check it out as the passes will move and shift, because the way that it happens, the International Space Station, you'll notice that as the weeks go by, every day the passes shift in time slowly. So at some point it's going to be in the morning and then the daytime and so on. I'll be able to easily listen to it because I want to hear that repeater from the ISS now. Mad Boy, nice to have you on board. Yes, long time no see. It's nice to have you around. Jersey Bound, nice to have you on board, my friend. Icadarius in Texas, nice to have you here. Eric Cottrell, got a new toy today. Thanks to a friend, I now have a K180 WLA. Instructions are in Chinese, but I think I can figure it out. Yeah, it's easy to set up. You know, with your technical knowledge, you'll easily set that up. I can tell you that. William Helms, nice to have you here from Florida. Jeff Lee, hello there. Eric says, I want to see if I get the same FM broadcast overload that Jill got. Yeah, do you have a lot of strong FM stations near you? If you do, maybe it will. If you don't, or if they're weaker, because here they're very strong. FM broadcast band here is crazy. Even radios have a hard time coping with the signals here. Roberto Ramirez, nice to have you on board. And says, caught me at work, but I'll grab my radio once finished. Cool. John Wayne says, feels good to be here with you all. It's nice to have all of you here for sure. Eric Cottrell, the friend plugin I am working on for SDR Play will support loading the CSV file that you get from EIBI Space. The Shortwave SCEDS file also has the EIBI information as well. René Charbonnier, nice to have you on board from the Netherlands. Shady Pyro 90, nice to have you here from British Columbia. And you're not that late, only a few minutes, not bad. Fidelva 65, nice to have you here from New York City. Maria 330, good afternoon. Wolfgang, nice to have you here from Austria. I had a little Austria moment not long ago. At the end of the International Radio Report, if there's a little bit of time, I like to put interval signals of stations and stuff. And I came across Radio Austria with Blue Danube. John Wayne, the X100 was my first radio also, early 80s, great times. Yeah, it was a very popular receiver. I had a few people that I know that worked at Radio Shack. They said that the DX100 was one of the top sellers at the time. Crazy Jane, nice to have you here. Jason Francis, nice to have you here, Jason, from Ottawa. And Catalan, if it's a new radio, do a live unboxing. No, it's not a radio. It's a set of cables that I was waiting for because I need to connect some of the stuff here, and I wanted to have good, proper cables for it. You know, I tend to be the guy that, you know, needs a cable for something. He looks at the box and he says, well, I don't have the cable, but I have the cables that have the good, you know, connectors. So I'm the kind of guy that will often take two cables, split them, and create a new cable with two older cables. And, you know, it works. But sometimes you cut a cable that someday you're like, oh, I need that type of cable. Oh, darn, I don't have it. I cut it off to create another cable with it. So I thought, okay, no cutting of cables, no, you know, messing up with any of the wires I already have. Buy the cables already done and have them delivered. KJ Walden, nice to have you here from the Netherlands. Man. Darius, it's Paul the cat pulling pranks. Yeah, he's having his friend over, so it's like by occupying me in the front, the other cat can come in the back. Eric Cottrell talked about official SWL channel last night on 2-meter Hamnet. One of the other hams tagged me because one of the receivers he was considering buying was reviewed on the video. I had one, you know, that always is kind of fun to hear. There was this ham operator. I posted a video, and the ham operator said, I've been a ham for 50 years, and all I can say is there's so much interesting information in this channel. Please don't stop, because you really, really have a lot of useful information. And he said, this is the best shortwave channel of all. So I said, yeah, you know, if somebody that's been in radio for longer than me tells me that, you know, what I do is great, it's fun. It's fun to hear. It's always fun to hear when people give you compliments, that's for sure. Especially, you know, there's a lot of hard work in there, and the time to take to do that. People don't realize that, you know, it's easy. You've got a 4-minute video explaining something and you find it cool. But that 4-minute video took a lot of time to create and put online and edit and whatever. And if not, you restart 3 times because something's wrong or the bell rings or whatever. And people don't realize that there's a lot of work to get what's on the content on the channel, you know. It's always fun to have somebody say, hey, your videos are great. James Johnson, another cat knocks at the door. Hey, is Paul home? Yeah, that could be. There's a stray cat that I think he is. There's nobody. He doesn't have a home. He started coming here in the last. He was here. He would come over here last year, but every time I'd go outside, he'd run off. But lately, he's been much friendlier because I've been giving him some of, what Paul doesn't want to eat. He's the happy cat that's going to get it. So he's been much friendlier. And this morning, what the biggest surprise I had is I left the kitchen door open because Paul was out. And I thought, well, if I am doing something, if Paul wants to get in, he'll be able to get in. And I go I go to get my cup of coffee, and that stray cat is sitting in the kitchen. And so when I saw him, I went really slowly because I didn't want to scare him. And he went back outside because he's obviously not comfortable. But it's the first time I see him from so close. And he's a nice, really cute little cat, actually. So I don't know. I don't feel like I want to have two cats, though. But he's friendlier. But I mean, he sleeps in the neighbor's yard all night, waiting for me to open the door and give him food. So I'm starting to think that he doesn't have a home. Now, for this time of year, it's not too bad, but I'm thinking when we're going to get to winter, I don't want to have that guy, freeze to death. That wouldn't be nice. So we're going to see what's going to happen with that. We're going to see what's going to happen. What else do we have? Let me go down. Bill, nice to have you on board. Smoke in Seattle. It's not so bad. Gray outside. Yeah, I hope things get better on the West Coast. It's crazy. Darius, Cat taking over the live stream. Hey, Atawahinta. Nice to have you here. And it is nice to have you. It's been a long time. And so, Eric Cottrell, cat toys for Paul. You never know. I get a couple of boxes this week, and it's like I get a notice in the mailbox. It says, you've got a package at the post office. And I'm like, what? I'm not waiting for anything. And I get there, and it's Paul. It's Paul, the cat food. Somebody's been sending him food. K6YYL. Nice to have you here, Kimberly from California. Hair quality here is really bad. Oh, man, hope it gets better soon. Wolfgang, glad to see you again. Nice to have you here. Jerry DX, nice to have you on board. Crazy Jane from the UK. Estrella Garcia, nice to have you on board, Estrella. Steve in Australia, nice to have you here. Archer's Out of Crafter's Kitchen from Massachusetts. Nice to have you here. What else do we have? Radioactive. Nice to have you on board from Oregon. Good afternoon. KW is W7WXV in very smoky from the fires in Western Oregon. No fires near you. It's crazy. It's like up and down all of the West Coast. Eric Ferreira. Nice to have you here. Where are you located, Eric? Shitty Power 90 morning managed to listen to the Voice of Mongolia and Radio Tirana in 6005. Cool, with the relays in Europe. Man of Means, nice to have you on board in California. Jim, nice to have you here from cloudy Rhode Island. Matt says, try talking on the US repeater, but its signal isn't very strong here. Yeah, wait for a pass, because, the antenna's position in a way, so maybe you'll have one pass to the north. And I always remembered when I listened to the International Space Station signal, amateur station, like for a slow scan TV, there's a when it passes in a certain place in the sky is better than when it's I believe, if I remember well, when the pass is north of me, goes from like west to north to east, it's better than when it is south of me. So maybe you'll have one that will be better. One of the things about the UHF frequencies is often the repeaters and the signals from satellites on UHF are weaker than the ones on 2 meters. I find it sad that they didn't have a 2-meter repeater, because it would have been even more interesting and easier to listen to on 2 meters. Lee Burkett, nice to have you here, my friend. Marcos, did you enjoy your holidays? Nice to see you back. Yeah, it was fun. Took some time off. It felt good to have some me time, not thinking about anything else, and trying to just enjoy a little bit more. Although it wasn't a very nice week, it was mostly raining. I was hoping to get to Perry Island for some day expedition, but maybe next week. I think on Tuesday it's supposed to be like 22, 23, lower 70s and sunny. Maybe Tuesday I'm going to get myself a little trip to Perry Island. Brian Penny from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Eric Cottrell, I have one FM station within a mile or two. There are two other strong FM stations of your QTH. Okay, it's going to be interesting to see. Let me know how it goes when you set it up. Joseph, nice to have you here from the San Francisco Bay Area, California. The Amnesty Gates, nice to have you on board from Aotearoa. Where's that? Bill Fagan, nice to have you here. And G7 IUI in the UK. Ça va très bien. Going very well. Eric's from Brazil. Cool. From Brazil. Recently bought the R108, and I think this radio amazing. Your videos was my inspiration to get into the Xing world. Cool. That is something that I like to hear. What I like mostly, what I find mostly sad is when somebody buys a radio that I recommend, and it ends up that it doesn't work well because there's too much noise, and that is a hard one to explain. It's very difficult to explain to somebody, it's like, yeah, well, I got a radio, I turn it on, there's nothing. Yeah, I get it. You probably have too much noise. Now, how do, it's a hobby that has a lot of, little details to understand. Not only do you have to understand that noise could be a problem, but also that, the time of day to listen to and frequencies used, Sorry, guys. It's not COVID. Sheldon Harvey, nice to have you here from Greenfield Park, Quebec. The radio report has been sent in to CKUT. And for those of you that want to listen in to me and Sheldon talking about the latest news of what's happening in the world of radio, locally and internationally, ckut.ca is where you could go on Sunday at 14:30 UTC, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. That will give you the live stream when the show is playing. Or you can go in the archives and listen to the past 3 months of shows. And actually, we might have more than 3 months at some point for a very simple reason. We have been doing this now for 6 months, even more. That means that I could technically find a spot on the internet and put all the MP3 files of all the shows older than 3 months that everybody could listen to. So that could be an interesting thing, and everybody would be able to enjoy as many shows as we have. This is the cool part, because I have all the shows, since we're pre-recording now on Friday, because the studios are closed because of COVID. I have all the shows. I can actually find a spot online and give you guys a link at some point of all, 6 months, 9 months, a year of shows. That could be of interest for some of you. So I'm going to check that out. What else do we have? Andy Coley, nice to have you here. Nice to have you here. Yeah, you're going to have a lot of time now, Eric. You can do a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. Matt says, ended up adopting a stray that kept breaking into my apartment back in the 90s. Crazy. Tristan, nice to have you here. Shitty Power 90, hearing Morse code on 437-800 FM. Oh, interesting. Mad Radio DXer, good evening. Nice to have you here. From the UK. MDK2 Matt says, I get the SSTV from the ISS very well. I'm not sure what the difference is in transmit between that and the new repeater. I heard they're using only 5 watts. Well, 5 watts is the power they're using, I believe, also on 2 meters. But I've always noticed that for the same power used, it seems to be more difficult to get the UHF downlinks. I always found that they were weaker for the same power used than the VHF ones for some reason. Tom lived in Montreal 50 years ago. Had a long wire for AMDX. Missed the beautiful city. Christy Freitas, nice to have you here, Christy. It's hot and humid in Nashville. Here it's cool and sunny right now. Perfect weather right now. Matambale, nice to have you here from Colorado. Found my old shortwave logs from the mid-70s and a 1976 copy of the World Radio TV Handbook. Looking for something else. This is how I find stuff now. Cool. Mohammad Gadir, nice to have you here, my friend. John Young says, you're supposed to cough into your elbow. Yeah, but I'm home. You know, I know, but I'm home. You know, there's no one else around. It doesn't matter. And I'll clean my hands. Don't worry. Oh, man. What else do we have? Mohammed says, problem is not the noise threatens our hobby. The main problem is the noise threatens the life of all people. Radio hobbyists and others. Yeah, there's all sorts of noise, of course. That's for sure. That's for sure. Tristan, it's time to start looking for replacement antenna cable. Not as sexy as a new radio, but it's all part of our hobby. Absolutely, it is part of the hobby. Amnesty Gates. Aotearoa is the land of the long white cloud is the authentic Maori name of New Zealand. Well, I just learned something. Thanks for sharing that. I'll add that to my knowledge of the world. Look forward to learn about my new shortwave radio and learning from your live stream. Cool. Well, thanks for being here. Nice to have you on board. Nice to have you on board. Radio 127. Nice to have you here from Massachusetts. And welcome aboard as a first-time watcher. And hopefully you'll be here regularly. Roger Bethel, quality is excellent. Started off in AM radio in 71. Wish I knew how to get my seniors who do not know how to use the internet to be able to listen to my programming. So we are going to talk a little bit about identification of stations, because it's something that is obviously not always easy to do. And there are so many frequencies when you listen to something that will give you multiple choice of station. And you got to know what station you're actually listening to. And that is one thing that isn't always obvious to everybody. There are part of it that can be easily done if you have a minimum of knowledge. There's part of it that can be done by using the shortwave schedules. But it is also easy to be fooled sometimes because some stations are jammed by other stations. An example, in the Facebook group today, there was a Sound of Hope out of Taiwan reported on 2 frequencies. And I don't want to be bearer of bad news, but there's a lot more chances that what was heard was the Chinese National Radio 1, CNR1, jamming, because China jams extensively on the shortwave bands. And almost all of the Sound of Hope station frequencies are jammed. What happens is that a lot of schedules online do not mention CNR1 jammers. I like the EIBI space schedules because often when when he knows about the frequencies of the jammers, he will add those to the list, which is really nice. But unfortunately, it's not always the case, and a lot of frequency schedules online do not include jamming. So when you search for, I was listening to that station, what that frequency at that time, you have a pop-up of, Sound of Hope, Taiwan. Cool, I'm hearing that. Unfortunately, it's almost sure that you are listening only to CNR1 jamming. And there are a few things to note about Sound of Hope, first of all. If you do hear Sound of Hope, everybody reports that the audio is kind of bad. It's kind of low audio, very, very low audio within the signal. Also, it's very low power, and I've never, ever heard of anyone receiving Sound of Hope in North America, really. Honestly, all the reportings of Sound of Hope end up being CNR1 jamming. There's a way to identify and make a difference between both. That is, if let's say that the transmission would be good. CNR1 always has the time pips at the top of the hour, and it's the only one that does that. So if you're listening to Sound of Hope and you hear time pips, it wasn't Sound of Hope, it was CNR1. It's unfortunately, if you don't speak Chinese, Mandarin, you, of course, cannot really identify what you're listening to, not necessarily easily on this case. You got to remember that the Chinese jamming is very powerful. China jams with 500 kilowatt transmitters. They want to make sure they don't mess around. They full power transmitters with CNR1 all the time. So that is something to note, that if you're in North America or Europe, you're hearing CNR1 jammer. It's not impossible. Let's not say impossible, because on shortwave nothing is. And but the chances that you would hear Sound of Hope are almost impossible, especially with the strong Chinese jamming. And this is the perfect time of year also to get fooled, because the equinox, September, October, is the time when in the morning, for example, all of the Chinese jammers are all easy to hear. I think it was Monday or Tuesday morning, I flipped on the radio around 9 a.m. local, that's 13 UTC, and on 19 meters, 15 megahertz, China was at least on a dozen frequencies with very powerful signals. So, CNR1 and China Radio International itself also, and a couple of jammers were also on. And so that's one thing that you got to be careful. You got to really be careful. Andrew David, nice to have you on board from the Adirondack Mountains of upstate New York. Thanks for being here and welcome aboard. Kevin, nice to have you here. WS2H from the Jersey Shore. Abraham, nice to have you on board at work. Been a long time. Missed your show. I'll listen to you in the truck. Cool. Nice to have you on board. Stay safe. Do not watch the show while you're driving in the truck. Matt, MDK2, I'm starting to get irritated with those Sound of Hope reports. Yeah. Joseph, isn't usually North Korea that jams Sound of Hope, actually? Most of the Sound of Hope jamming is done by China. It's mostly because North Korea doesn't have the capabilities to jam Sound of Hope, and Sound of Hope in Taiwan is in Chinese, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just check something here. You guys always have these questions sometimes that make my curiosity go. I'll just do this SOH, Sound of Hope. So let me just check a frequency here on 13 megahertz that I know that it's broadcasting from. So because there's some, so Sound of Hope, yeah, it's Mandarin. So Sound of Hope is directed at China because it's in Mandarin. There's another one that's on. I'm trying to remember what's the name of it. There's one that is actually directed to North Korea. That also is jammed, but that one is jammed by Korea. There's a big difference, by the way, but North Korean jamming and Chinese jamming. First of all, North Korea does not at all have the same means of jamming broadcasts. It won't put on a full 500 kilowatt transmitter because they don't have the money and they don't have the resource to do it. What they do, North Korea jammers are usually noise. So it's a form of noise, bells, whistles, tones, white noise, things like that. Sound of Hope is directed towards China and in Mandarin, and they are actually jammed heavily. And China just uses, there's two ways that they're going to jam a transmission. The fire drake, which is like those, Chinese music. It's at least, I prefer, honestly, if they hard to jam, I prefer having the fire drake. I kind of find entertaining the Chinese music there. It's kind of very traditional Chinese music and drums and stuff. At least, there's something that I'm listening to because I don't understand Mandarin. But most of the recent times, they've been simply putting, they're trying to kind of be low profile. They actually put on CNR1, the Chinese National Radio 1 channel, as if it was a normal channel that they have on shortwave. But in reality, the intent behind it is simply to jam Sound of Hope. Matambali several times. Todd, I heard SOH, but thinking I have not yet. No, it's crazy. Yeah, because Voice of Korea they don't use Voice of Korea for jamming, but they will have China. When North Korea jams, it usually is noise. It's like Vietnam. Because Vietnam still jams also. It is always kind of noisy, or bells and whistles and stuff. Matt says Sound of Hope based in USA as a live stream. So maybe you can compare I don't know if the online stream and the actual programming match. If they do, what else do we have? Joseph, interesting. Based on my QESDR listening, I always thought Iran was the master of jamming. Iran does jam, but the master of jamming right now is China. They are the number one jammer probably. But, there are different countries that jam in different ways. Turkey will have, forgot the name of it, but Turkey will put on the air one of those channels with, like military and music and stuff like that from Turkey to jam some other transmissions that they don't want. Iran does jam, that's for sure. China will jam. Usually, pretty much almost all the jammers I've seen from China are from Chinese territory, but I would say that I wouldn't be surprised that they could use some jamming capability from other countries where they transmit from. But most of it comes from China from what I've seen. Yep, and that's true, Matt. They use multiple transmitters. Sometimes you hear echoes or slight delays. Absolutely. Catalan, what about the Duga radar? The Duga radar is off. The Duga has been kind of decommissioned. There are some radars. I mean, a Russian does have some new types of radars, but it's that type of radar is an old radar that's been decommissioned, from what I've learned a lot, from what I've read, actually. Matambale says, would take some pretty unusual propagation or Chinese operators sleep of the controls to catch Sound of Hope. Dan, nice to have you here. Oh, you're right, Matt. Echo of Hope. It's similar, but it's Echo of Hope for North Korea. Absolutely. And they jam it with noise. They don't take a Voice of Korea transmitter and jam it. Joey D, nice to have you here, Joey. What the heck is Supreme Master TV all about? It comes in very everywhere, like it's in my backyard. Yeah, the Supreme Master TV is a very unusual broadcast from. It is relayed by WRMI. There are many frequencies and times during the day that they actually use that. It sounds. I hate to say it, and I hope it's not. It is certainly a sect of some religious sect. They've been referring to. There's that lady that talks from time to time in that show, that talks vegan stuff and so on, and how to preserve nature. And when somebody else actually talks to her, they always talk to her as master. And it's like, what is that, master? I don't like that kind of programming, for one thing. You guys remember the Om Shinrikyo sect in Japan that did the sarin gas attack? I got a QSL card from. They had a shortwave station or relay, and I have a QSL card from that. Supreme Master TV, for me, eerily sounds like that. It sounds innocent because they try to talk about protection of the planet and of God's creatures and being vegan and stop eating animals and whatever. And it's kind of an innocent message, but there's something about it that I don't like. There's something that I have a hard time grasping, that it's like, this sounds like a sect of crazy people that are gonna blow up somewhere. I don't know. I don't like that. I don't like the maybe I'm wrong and maybe it's all innocent and but it's the kind of thing I have a hard time with. I gotta say, I've many times heard during the day, in the morning when I wake up, one of the strongest frequencies of stations in English is Supreme Master TV on 15770, which is a good part of the day here, and it always has a good signal. But I don't know. There's something scary about that group that I don't like. Lee Burkett, nice to have you here. 9800 Adventist World Radio isn't jam. No, Adventist World Radio. I've never heard anybody jam this station from anywhere. Picked up 11820. So cool. Nice to see that you're enjoying radio. Juan Rio, nice to have you here from Argentina. LU1075SWL. Was easier to identify Chinese jamming as such when they used the Fire Drake. Yeah, Fire Drake was clear. At least you heard a Fire Drake is like, oh, that's China. CNR1 is a little more tricky because, same language and all. Hey, David Snyder, nice to have you on board from Staten Island, New York. Yeah, Echo of Hope for North Korea. Exactly. That was the one. I knew it was close, but I tried to remember what it was, but Echo of Hope. That's it. Madrido DXer says, my guess is North Korea's jammers are 50 kilowatt of power. I can receive them here in the UK, jamming Echo of Hope. Yeah, and if you jam with noise, it will be probably more effective at a lower power than trying to jam with a regular program. Digital Analog Ham, nice to have you on board. Kamexi76 would be funny if someone jammed the Chinese broadcast. I bet they would cry bloody murder. Let's jam CRI. So glad to see you're back home, William Helms. Mark says, I posted a Brazilian station on the group, but I just couldn't believe that I was picking that up here in the UK. Yeah, there's a few Brazilians that are actually powerful enough that make it quite a good distance. I get a few Brazilian stations here in the 60-meter band and also in the 31. I think 31 meters. There's a couple like 966. The one that I hear is 9664.8. Vozmi Sonaria, I think it's called. You easily know it's Brazil because it's off a little bit. Instead of 9665, it's always like 9664.7.8. Kind of goes around there. Nino Ramela, hi, where are you located? Let us know. We want to know where everybody is around the world. Abraham Moeller, nice to have you here, Abraham, from Oxford, Ohio. Artist Ollie Crafter says Supreme Master TV is guilty pleasure. It's not that it's bad, but I don't know. There's something that scares me of that broadcast. John McClure, nice to have you on board. Hey, Jeffrey Chan, nice to have you on board. Mad Boy said, point a story, don't mess with the Colts. Yeah, pretty much. Jeff Barrett, nice to have you here from Ohio. What else do we have? Some kind of cult or something. Absolutely. Just crazy. Yeah, Joey D, absolutely. Actually, it's cult-like. There's something scary about it. It's innocent in its programming, but I find it as scary as listening to Brothers Stare with the moaning broadcasts. Oh, man. I don't know. Yeah, Brothers Stare is a cult leader, absolutely. Radio Wild, why are there no radios in view that glow in the dark? I noticed you talking about glowing in the dark. And one of the things that all summer. So when I listen to the radio outside, I listen in the dark. I don't turn on a TV. I don't turn on a light. The reason is mostly because when you turn on your lights at night, there's like a million bugs that come at you, So I prefer to keep it dark. And it hit me a lot this summer that radios should all have illuminated keyboards or keypads. Because every time I wanted to punch in a frequency to listen to something, I actually had to turn on a flashlight, punch in whatever frequency I want to do. Because, you've probably all gone through this. You want to do it in the dark, and you just touch the keypad, and you're certain that you're going to have it. But you're one key to the right or to the left. So when you punch in, it's like, whoops, I pressed a function key. Oops, I wanted to press 1, but I'm pressing 2. I'm just a little too much to the right. And so you end up using a flashlight because I want to punch in that frequency. And it made me realize how having a lighted keypad is very useful. And I don't have a lot of radios that actually have that. I noticed that the Degen D1103 does. The Grundig G5 does. And it's really nice to have that because you can see what you're punching in. But there's really almost nothing that has a keypad that lights up when you want to use it. And in the dark, it's kind of hard. Bobby Burgess says, I don't mind Green Planet stuff, but don't force me to be a vegan. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Same here. I remember I have a friend of mine that's vegan, and she posted a comment one day saying, how can you eat some horse meat? Look at how beautiful they are. And I posted, well, have you ever seen how a little, a little porky pig is, a little pig is cute when it just, is small and pink and all? It's like, it's super cute. But you know what? I'm still going to eat my bacon tomorrow morning. And she was like, well, and she posts all sorts of things. She was posting Harvey's, no, not Harvey's, Burger King. She was saying Burger King has horse meat in their patties. And I joked back, well, if that's why their hamburgers are so good, so be it. So, she doesn't have the right guy to complain about, meat and stuff. But, here we had a couple of crazy people that, groups that attacked, meat packing plants and stuff because they want us to, eat vegetables. I mean, come on. You can be a vegan if you want. I have no problem with that. But do not interfere with the fact that I want to eat my chicken or I want to eat my bacon. Oh, yeah, Brother Stare is scary. What else do we have? QSL card from Brother Scare. I was listening to your moaning broadcast the other day. There was a moaning at 2112 UT, another moaning at 2114 UT, and some weak music in behind. I would like to know if you are making this show in a barn or with animals or real people. Thank you. When you hear crazy drums and music, Mark, on Radio Free Asia frequencies, you're hearing the Fire Drake. It's a Chinese jammer. And Radio Free Asia is another one that's hard to really, although that one is easier and it's not impossible to actually receive because it's more powerful. Be very, very careful of Radio Free Asia reports because oftentimes it's Fire Drake. That's easy to understand and know that it's China, but identifying Radio Free Asia versus CNR1 can be a challenge if you don't understand Mandarin, that's for sure. Well, there's a lot of tube radios, Radio Wild, that glow in the dark. But I should have a few shortwave glow in the dark here. I'd like that. Joseph says, Michelle is a cult leader too. We worship radios. And yes, please. I want to be referred to as master of the radio. And I want everybody to send me all of your money so I can buy all the radios in the world. Do it now. Yeah. What else do we have? Hey, Rufus Newt. Nice to have you on board. Done working. Cold beer and souvlaki pita in hand. Cool. Enjoy. Kevin, they should use red lights, save night vision. Yeah, that would be nice. Keegan, the Grundig S450 DLX field radio and the Ethan Grundig Edition field BT radio with RDS have backlight buttons. Oh, cool. Well, I do have the C-Crane CC Shortwave that does have illumination of all the buttons. There's a few that do, but unfortunately, it's not common. It should have been more common than that. TB, I think Texan PL990 not going to sell well, has 880 all. This because China problem. Also, the price is too much. We're going to see what's going to happen with the PL990. I find it way too expensive. It's a different radio. They are pushing it in, in a, I don't know. I mean, the only people that will buy that PL990 are real hard geeks of radio, honestly. Because they want to have it, they want to test it, they want to play around with it. We'll see, but it's expensive for a radio, I can tell you. It needs to have really nice and better reception and a lot of stuff to actually sell. It's very important. But time will tell. We should see that in 2021. Jason Francis, always say cute animals taste better. Oh, man. Abraham, Canadian bacon. RFDX there, nice to have you on board from Southeast Colorado. Paul McDonald, never mind meat, let's talk beer. Cheers. Oh, God, Radio Well. PETA, people eating tasty animals. Oh, God. I'm not going to do that one. Jeff Barrett, my daughter works part-time at Burger King. I'm so happy. PLF Radio, Texan PL398 as eliminated keypad. That's cool. Paul McDonald, VA7ZZT in British Columbia. Nice to have you on board. Eric Cottrell, sitting down, having supper while listening. Cool. I'm going to make hamburgers on the barbecue, so I'll be eating a tasty animal later. Oh, man. If we lose viewers, we'll know that we lost the vegans. What else do we have? Tristan says, talking about glow-in-the-dark keypads, I'm legally blind and have some blind friends. It would be nice to have a radio that spoke the current frequency. That would be pretty sweet. Absolutely. You know what, Tristan? I was thinking of. I found that ICOM does it right there. For example, the ICOM ICR30 that I don't like that much, but I use. And I'm learning to love. I do find it cool that they have the spoken frequency that you can turn on. And so when you actually choose a frequency, it's going to tell you the frequency and mode that you are tuned to. You're totally right on that, Tristan. A lot of receivers should have that default. And, even to some extent, maybe have the Bri on the keypad so that when you touch, you know what number it is and so on. That could also be could be very useful for some people. And it is definitely something that some people, but only high-end radios usually have the capability of having the frequency read or spoken. Radioactive 13840 renews New Zealand, barely making it to the West Coast. Mohammed. Yeah, well, we we are, it's nice whoever, I totally understand that eating meat is not necessarily the top, what we should all do all the time. But it's okay to. I always, the thing is to respect everybody. That's what I hate. Is I hate to for those that are vegan that can't respect those that are going to eat meat. And the same thing on the other way around. Let's just all be happy. But it is true, like Abraham says. All these animals and everything. There's some pollution there, that's for sure. But I think the thing is, it's everybody does it the way they want, and Archer's Other Crafters Kitchen says PL 990 is nice, but insanely overpriced. Yeah, it is expensive. Imagine for a Chinese-made radio too. Oh, interesting. Eric says I have a special version of the AOR 8200 Mark III infrared backlight that can be used with infrared goggles. That is nice. MXT76, a Brother Stare Alex Jones mashup channel. Oh God. Oh God. That would be crazy. MDK2 Matt says, I agree. I said before that I thought $200 was about right for something that's an upgrade of a 169 radio, but twice that, no way. Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy. Abhinav Saxena. What is SDL? You mean SDRs? Yeah, most Archer's Alley Crafters, most high-end radios have an optional speech module that you can purchase. But it's fun to have it already in it, Steve King, my PL 990 is coming this Monday, replacing my old Sangean 909. Well, let us know what you think. Wolfgang, what do you think of the Kenwood R5000? It's a very good radio. It is a very, very good radio. I owned one for 20 years before it was replaced by the ICOM SCR 8500 here. Always really, really loved the radio. Unfortunately, as it gets older, it does develop some technical problems. One is the keypad bounce, which can be easily fixed by cleaning up the keypad. But worst is the dots problem. And since it follows on the design of a couple of older transceivers like the TS440, TS450, they all share that same problem. They put some wax on the circuit board, and what happens is the wax that is there mixes in with the humidity in the air over years and creates an acidic compound that eventually creates the phase lock loop, the PLL, eventually loses lock because the components get corroded and they're out of their tolerance level and the radio stops working. I had that after, I don't know, maybe 15 years of use. It started doing the dots problem. I compensated for a while because what I did was I noticed that when it started doing it, when it came warm, it would come back to normal. So at one point, I left it all the time. I at one point, it was on 24 hours a day. What I would just do is put the volume at 0. And I would use it the next day. I'd just leave it on 24 hours a day. But one day, after I don't know, it had been on 24 hours for maybe 2-3 years in a row. One day, there was a power outage for several hours, because if you took out the power for 2 minutes, it was okay. It would still come back on. But if it was more than 5 minutes, it would, do it again. And there's a power outage that lasted a full day. I knew the radio would not come on again. And so when the power came back, it was only dots, and it never came back on. I needed to get it fixed. So I had the idea. So there were a couple of things that I wanted to do. Do I get it fixed? But the problem is getting it fixed was kind of difficult. Nobody wants to touch it. And it was getting more and more difficult to find a place that would actually want to fix it. And the places that wanted to fix it, the prices they asked, well, I started thinking, well, if I'm to, shed $500 for a fix to the R5000, that at the beginning cost me, $900. I thought, okay, what other solution is there? I wanted to have an ICOM ICR 8500 for a long time because I wanted to have the wide range capability. And it's funny how things happen, because the 8500, the ICOM 8500, was always about $2,200, $2,300, $2,400. So it was, I thought it was, it's kind of expensive. And one day, in the same month or so that my Kenwood R5000 did the dots problem, when I looked at Radio World to see what they had, they had the ICOM ICR 8500 on sale, and it was $1,700. So I thought, okay, well, it's almost $600 less. It's time to buy it. It's now or never. And so took out the credit card and ordered one. And was happy. I liked the ICOM ICR 8500. I will say that, having played with the Kenwood R5000 a long time, the ICOM ICR 8500 was not up to par on shortwave. The 8500 is good. The R5000 has that little something more. And I noticed immediately that the 8500 was not totally up to par, but it was good enough. It was certainly much better than a lot of radios. So it stayed my radio for a long time. For a while, the 8500, the ICOM 8500 was my main radio. But the Kenwood R5000 is a very good performance, a great radio. And if you have one that works well, these are great. The only drawback, and I never understood why, is how hot it actually comes when it's actually operating. The power supply of that radio runs so hot, it's crazy. That I didn't like. When I purchased it, my first worry about the Kenwood R5000 was that it could actually break or actually have problems in the long run because it was too hot. And for that reason, I always had a couple of fans running that would keep it much cooler. And even at one point, I actually was powering it off of 12 volts DC so that the power supply didn't have to work. And at 12 volts DC, it actually runs barely, it's just a little warm. That's it. But with the power supply, when it was like 30 degrees inside the home, forget it. You couldn't even put your hand on top of the cover because it was too hot. That, I always thought it was a bad design of the Kenwood R5000. But the radios, and I still find that the Kenwood R5000 is very sexy looking for a radio. Erica Trell, ICOM R8600 has spoken frequency mode as well. Yeah. What's the price of the 990? It's around 400 US bucks. It's very expensive. Most places that have it in the US retail have it at around 300 to 400 US dollars. Here it would come. I looked a few places. The cheapest price that I've seen was something like 563 Canadian dollars. Paul McDonald, wonder if some of the U.S. retail stores are hurting because us border folks in Canada are not buying their products. Probably. I mean, I remember in the 80s when the Canadian dollar became was higher at some point. There was a lot of shopping. We would go down to here. The I think it was almost a form of just enjoying in a Sunday afternoon. We would just get in a car, go down to Plattsburgh, New York, shop, come back to Montreal with our stuff, which would cost a lot less because of the in the U.S. basically, and that was kind of a national sport for a while. But I'm pretty sure with the borders closed, there is some hurting of some of the businesses for sure. Avina Saxena, yeah, SDRs are great. They are as good as regular radios when you choose the right one. What is nice, and this is what I prefer and love, is the visual. You could see all the frequency range. So if something pops up on a frequency, you could see it with your eyes, and you can click, and you'll be on that signal. A lot of stations and a lot of things I would have missed in my listening if I did not have that capability. RFD Extra says, I think the Kenwood TS440 was the transceiver version of R5000. Yeah, I think that there's something like that. The TS440 was the transceiver, and they were sharing the same receiver or something like that from the R5000. But I know that both were sharing the same problems over years. Lee Burkett, I received PBS Young this week on 7380 kilohertz and also on 7435. This frequency is usually radio channel 292. It's been a strange week for Chinese frequencies. Actually, you know what, Lee? You're pretty far north in latitude, and we are getting into the equinox right now. It is the time around the equinox, September, October. Same happens around, I'd say, late February to early April or mid-April. Asia tends to come in better on a lot of frequencies, and we start hearing a lot of the Chinese broadcasters coming in at different times. So there's a lot of that happening around the equinox. It's a seasonal thing. It's very important to understand that as the seasons go by, you will have changing propagation, actually. Others out of Crafter's Kitchen. Kenwood R2000 also susceptible to bounce. I only had experienced it in the clock set. Kamaxi 76. Yeah, 11610 is at this time is KNLS via Madagascar relay in Mandarin. That's usually what it is, and usually comes in pretty well. Yep. I'm hearing it right now, 11610. What else do we have? Wendell Miranda, nice to have you here from Brazil. What else do we have? Peter Robinson got the Radiwao R108 with a long wire around the garden. Cool. Dandruff. No, it was not a problem with the processor or anything. Dandruff. It really was. It's a known problem that the circuit board gets gets a problem, and you need to actually have it serviced when that happens. Fastload has it. He fixed it actually, and it seems to be working now. So no, it's not. Dandruff. I don't even use the R8500 anymore. I have the SDR, and that's pretty much it. MRI says he's fixed the PLL unlock problems. Yeah. If you can if you're a little handy, you can actually go and fix that. That's for sure. You remove the wax and fix whatever, or remove or change any parts that might have been have some problems, and it'll come back to life. Branson, nice to have you here. Yeah, is it that Russian one, William Helms? The Russian, man, I'm trying to remember the name. The man, it's a Belka, something like that. It's a Russian one. Is that the one you were talking about? Because there's a Chinese equivalent. Apparently, there's a Chinese version that kind of copied the Russian design. Ricardo Silva, nice to have you on board from Portugal. Randy in Riverside, California, nice to have you here. Habinav, thank you. What is the best SDR software I can download on my laptop? So I need to, or do I need a conventional radio to link up with SDR, as I am keen to go to the SDR route? I'm in India. So an SDR, software-defined radio, is a radio. I'll tell you two things that you can do. So if you want to have something like this, you need to have a radio. So you have to have an SDR. An example that I've got here is the SDR play devices. This is the RSP1A, for example, that I used for a while. This is a radio, but it needs a computer to work. So it has the USB port on one side. It has the antenna port on the other side. This is a real radio. A lot of people, like, well, SDRs aren't real radio. No, this is a radio. It's just that it needs a computer for the controls. With an SDR play device, for example, SDR Uno is the software that I use. But depending on the SDR device that you use, you can use different types of software. That said, if you want to have the feel of software-defined receivers, and you want to try them out and see for yourself if you're going to like it, and also not just that, you'll be able to also, try different SDR receivers around the world. Now, what you are doing when you go here is you're going to have a map of receivers. And these are radios that are online around the world, but that you can tune in, but you're receiving the audio through the internet. So I'm going to post a link here to this website. You can check it out and try it out. These are real online radios that you can tune from a distance. You choose one on the map, and you're listening to that radio in that country wherever you're clicking. But if you want to have it in your home, you need, little SDR like I have here, a little radio that plugs to the computer. And like the RSP1A is, I think, the best entry-level one for, quality of reception and everything. You need, of course, an antenna, and the software SDR Uno comes on the website, actually. What else do we have? Mad Reader DXer says, since getting an SDR, my desktop radios have had very little use since then. Only my portables would get more regular use as IDX with them outdoors. Same here. I have pretty much, I don't use my ICOM ICR 8500. It's been sitting there. And doing almost nothing. I totally am into software-defined radios now. The flexibility of listening and all is great, and I've pretty much used only that. And exactly like you, my portable receivers get a lot more use than my CRT 500 because I take them outside. They're easy to bring along, you know. Mickey Dalmage, nice to have you here from Sherwood Park, Alberta, Canada. I forgot to send you my LRA 36 report for the QSL card and everything. I'm going to try to send you this weekend so you have it for the next messenger. Yeah, that's the thing, William. Malachite DSP. It is a copy of, apparently, from what I read on one of the blog posts, one of the places where they talk about radios, it would be a copy of the Russian Belka one. But apparently it has a lot of flaws, so I don't know. Mark Schmidt, nice to have you on board from Maine. What else do we have? Abhinav, the Radio Garden app covers mostly regular types of radios, not SDR, not shortwave in general. Most shortwave are not or don't have necessarily an internet online presence. OSR, yeah, there are some types of radios that could actually have support with SDR, absolutely. More expensive tabletops usually, and more modern radios also. Matt says, I used to listen outside a lot, but since my fixed antennas get better received in my portables, I seldom do anymore. Thomas, nice to have you here. Thank you. So, it's a question of preference. I know some people don't like SDRs. Some people do not like at all the fact that they have to use a computer to to listen in, and it's okay. I mean, we're all different, so it's understandable that sometimes not, and it's okay. It's depending on what we like. Also, there's something about software-defined radios that we got to understand is depending on the setup you have, sometimes it might induce more noise. Sometimes it might not be the best or the ideal way of listening in. And, being dependent on a computer means that it's a little bit like a big desktop. You got to pretty much be always at the same place listening in. So it all depends. We're not all in the same boat on what we like, and we've got to sometimes be to understand what exactly we want to do and listen in. Some people are like, today's portables, a lot of them are so darn good. And they let you get away easily from the noise levels that we have around our homes. I mean, let's face it, year after year, we have to face that there's more noise, there's new noise sources, there's different noise sources everywhere. Our hobby is getting tough to operate from our own homes sometimes because it gets just too complicated with the noise levels. And that is something that we that's why something you sometimes you'll have a portable radio. You'll be able to go somewhere in a park or go somewhere where there's a lot less noise, unfortunately. Oh, I didn't take the time to look at all the columns, Mickey. So you included the early 36 September issue. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. because I didn't have time to. I just barely touched a couple of pages of the messenger. I need to. I'll do that tonight. I'll look at the full messenger on the my tablet. So yeah, cool. You did fine taking it. No problem at all. It was really nice to. I will be looking at. I don't have a lot of QSLs and don't receive a lot of QSLs in general, but that one was kind of nice though. It was nice to have. Shelly, nice to have you here from Pennsylvania. Tommy Tunas, nice to have you here. Mandatory DXer with SDRs. You can decode utilities, digital modes easily and free. Desktop radios with those features cost a lot of money. Yeah, choice of software for the Mac and for Linux also is much more limited. Unfortunately, it is a lot more PC oriented. There are some software for Mac and for Linux. I know that apparently the next version 2.0 of SDR Uno for the SDR Play devices, they were talking about having a version that would be out for Linux and Mac. That's going to be a game changer, honestly, for people that aren't on Windows. Catalan, RSP1A versus RSPDX. We're upgrading from RSP1A. Is RSPDX just improved on the HF band? Actually, from personal experience, the reason you might want to go to the RSPDX from the RSP1A is the improved dynamic range, especially on the medium wave band. That a lot of people have been actually. I don't do a lot of medium wave DX here, or long wave is pretty much dead here. But apparently people that are in the low frequencies below have much better. There's really an improvement on the RSPDX and the low frequencies compared to RSP1A. On shortwave, I can't really say that I see much of a difference. Where the other thing that you might want to move on to the RSPDX, and I gotta say that is pretty darn cool, is the fact that you got 3 antenna inputs. So in my position here where I have multiple antennas, well, I don't have to switch anymore. I plug in 3 antennas and I simply click on the antenna inputs in the software. And it is actually really cool. Really is nice for that. So improved reception in the lower frequencies somewhat, especially on medium wave DXers. Apparently, see a big difference. And the 3 antenna inputs are mostly the reason you would like or you would move to an RSPDX. For the rest, you might be fine with an RSP1A, honestly. Andy Coley, if you buy RTL SDR, yeah, but they're crappy. They don't work well. The RTL SDRs, I've never had good performance on that. They're really cheap, but they also perform like really cheap radios, unfortunately. But those can run on Android. Absolutely. I had SDR. I should actually try on my tablet. I haven't tried it yet, but with what is it? SDR Touch, I think. Arthur's Alleycrafter's Kitchen says that the MLA30 was the best anti-noise investment I ever made. I had to say that the MLA30 is, the MLA30 made me enjoy again some of the shortwave that I had lost. So, it's interesting. Lee, mixed opinions of SDR Uno. Well, you mean Kiwi SDRs. I think you're mixing up two things. Kiwi SDRs and University of 20. because QASDRs have the fun part of being everywhere around the world, so you can choose a receiver around the world somewhere. Sam Sanders, how critical is wavelength in receiving signals? I have over 100 feet over a metal roof trying to reach 6-meter length. So, and of course, one thing's for sure is that when your antenna resonates at a frequency that you want to tune in, it always performs better. That is the basics of the antenna system. Tune your antenna to the perfect resonance of where you're listening to. Yes, on an S meter or on the meters, you will see that there is a gain. Your S meter will be higher. There's more signal because it resonates. But shortwave is a spectrum that is from 3 to 30 megahertz. So you can't resonate everywhere. For the most part, what you want to have is the longest length. My general rule, and it still is today, if you are in a low noise environment, the longest length of wire that you could put up, the better. In general, that's pretty much the way it works. It won't be perfect everywhere, but it works great in general. You want to stay away from anything metal when you're put your antenna up. So you say that you got a metal roof. Ideally, that wire antenna or that antenna itself should be as far away as possible from a metal roof because it will change its properties. So these are things that you got to know. But, don't go crazy. It's not super critical, honestly. What else do we have? Rufus, have all the pieces here for SDR, waiting for the Linux version of SDR Uno. Thomas Olson, demo I saw makes SDR look very interesting, but having a portable makes going out in the park or country easier. Yeah, that's for sure. And the noise problem at home here in Baltimore is really bad. Oh yeah, I mean, I didn't do it yet this year. I should, it's because I didn't feel like I didn't want to bring along too much stuff. But I could, I could have taken my my Acer Nitro 5 portable, my RSPDX, and an ML830 together and go out and at Perry Island and play around. Take care, Paul McDonald. No problem. Stay safe. Tommy says, I have the RSP Duo with Windows 10. Works great. I use it standalone with his Yaesu FTDX3000D as a pen adapter. Cool. Eric Cottrell, RTL SDR, you get what you pay for. Yeah, pretty much. Michael Woods, nice to have you here. RFDXer, 6900 kilohertz music on an Iceland remote SDR. Huh. That's interesting. Maybe a pirate or something. OSR, any opinions on the ELAD SDRs? Well, they're apparently really good. They're very expensive. But I think everybody that has one were very, very happy with it. So I don't know. I don't own one, so I don't have my own opinion on that. But from what I've seen, a lot of owners of ELAD SDR seem to be pretty happy with their devices. Bobby Burgess, what's good about the RTL SDRs is the hardware is open source and can do many more applications than an SDR Play line of RSP products, which uses closed source hardware. Yeah, for sure. But the problem is it's very limited at some point, because even if you could do more of what you want, its performance is so limited that it limits also how you're going to use it and what you're going to do with it. Steve Miller, nice to have you on board. RFDXer, ELAD SDR is very good, except I get some hash noise when recording on several frequencies. Oh, that's interesting. Huh. Interesting. Take care, Lee Burkett. It's always nice to have you on board. But I mean, I got the RTL SDR V3 that I play around from time to time. It's a fun thing to play with. I mean, just for the fun of it, it's kind of cool to play around with it from time to time. But unfortunately, it really is far from my the RTL, the SDR play devices like the RSPDX or RSP1A, even the RSP1A, which is the entry level for SDR play, is so much better than the RTL SDR. There's no question about it. And when somebody asks me, "Oh, what should I get?" I will always say, "Well, get an RSP1A." You immediately are in the big leagues of SDR with something that is surprising for the price still. So you're watching the Shortwave show from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Let's check out any pirates. Nope. Okay. Anything from Priam about something? Well, HM01. Okay. So let's do a little exercise in knowing what we're listening to. Okay. So I will use the website that I shared earlier, the eibispace.de, because I like the fact that it's extremely it's probably the most accurate list. It's updated so regularly. So what I will do is listen or tune into a frequency. So say I go to so I'm on the 25 meter band right now. I will go to, let's zoom out a little bit, or zoom out. Yeah. So I see something that's popping up here. I'm going to click on it. Now, I know what it is, but I'll pretend I don't. So I'm hearing something on 11780. Okay. 11780. I got a lot of noise today. This is crazy. I don't usually have that much noise around there. Kind of interesting. So here's something on 11780. Unfortunately, the audio is very low. Let's choose another example. I know it's a radio. So 11820. Here we go. So 11820, and I hear what sounds like the Holy Quran being done over there. So 11820. Holy Quran, or if it would not be that, it probably would be Arabic. What will I do and what will I search? Well, I go on my list here and I search for 11820. 11820 is what I am listening to. The second thing that is very important to know is what time is it in universal time. And it's very important. When you go on a group, when you share with people, don't use local time. It is useless for everybody else. It's, if I tell you it's 5:45 p.m. here, most of you will say, well, what's that UTC? What is it UTC? I have no idea. So use universal time. Always know that's one of the basic things that you immediately need to grasp, is always knowing what universal time it is where you are. It's a must-have. You need to know that. It's not even if I just put it in my local time zone today, it's going to be okay. No, because your local time zone means nothing for other people. I'm listening to it at 11 a.m. in Pakistan. Yeah, I have no idea what 11 a.m. in Pakistan is compared to my local time zone. So, I will have to search what's the difference in UTC with Pakistan with, it is totally useless to use your local time. We don't know what time it is because everybody around the world is in its different time zones. So we want UTC. That's the basic of all, and you should always be in UTC. Have a clock set to UTC all the time. You know that clock on your portable radios? It should never be set to your local time. It should always be set to UTC. It's a shortwave radio after all. What you want is UTC. And, if you don't know what UTC it is compared to your time, you can Google it. You can just go on Google and say, what time is it UTC? It's going to tell you immediately what time it is UTC. So right now, UTC time is 21:47, according to my clock. 21 hours and 47 UTC. I'll go on the list of frequency and check 11820. Now, this one is an easy one because at this time, there's only one station, and it's the broadcasting of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Plus, it says Holy Quran. So, it's the Quran being read, and it's for Europe. In cases where there would be more stations, more than one, the best friend that you can have is understanding a minimum of being capable of recognizing a minimum of the language. You don't have to understand a language to know what language it is. For example, it's easy to make a difference between Spanish and Portuguese. It's easy to see a difference between, Mandarin Chinese and Japanese. It's once you actually listen to the languages regularly, you get a grasp of, if I hear something on that frequency and it's saying they're in Turkish, well, Turkish and Arabic are different enough that I can make a difference. In my ear, I know that that's not Arabic. It's probably Turkish. It's over time that happens, because, if you've never listened really to other languages, immediately you won't really recognize the difference. Being a shortwave listener for a long time helped me a lot in identifying what language I was listening to when I listened to a broadcast. And that helps you a lot because it actually helps you understand that, then it must be this station because it's in this language. When there are several broadcasters, except for the Chinese jammers, most of the time, the languages are different. So knowing being able to identify a language will tremendously help you in understanding what you're listening to. The other thing is understanding propagation. Say that you're on a frequency listening to a signal in English. You've got two choices of station, both in English. One is, let's give a frequency of 17,800, okay? It's a fake broadcast. Don't go searching for it. 17,800, you've got two things in English that are on the IBI space list, for example. An example. Don't go check. It's probably not true. But you're trying to identify which one of the two I am listening to. Well, 17,800 is a high frequency. It's 16-meter band. It propagates daytime. It doesn't propagate nighttime. So you have a choice of a station that is in the daytime path with you, and you have another choice, but that station is mostly nighttime path with you. Well, chances are you're listening to the daytime path because it is where that 17 megahertz frequency can propagate. The other way around is true. If you're listening to two stations, to a station, and there are more than one station on a low frequency, 5 megahertz. Well, 5 megahertz propagates during the night. It doesn't in midday. So you'll have to identify it depending on the signals that are propagating during the night. So sometimes, we've had in the past some people say, "Oh, I'm listening to, this station off." I'm hearing that station in Australia, here in North America at, 20 hours UTC. Well, look, that station in Australia on 5 megahertz, it's a daytime path up to North America. It can't be. That frequency will not propagate to here. but maybe you're hearing something else that's closer, or if you're in, late afternoon, early evening, coming from the east, coming from a nighttime path up to you. It's a lot of information, I know, and it's not, it's not something that from overnight you're going to just like understand, but slowly grasping language, just identifying it. You don't need to understand it. Slowly understanding what frequency at what time. It's obvious there are some frequencies and there are some moments where it's kind of weird. An example, in a high solar activity, I would listen to Radio Australia at midnight local time, which is 04 UT, on 21740. Now you're going to say, well, it's dark where you are. Yeah, that gets more tricky. That's because higher solar activity plus all of the Pacific Ocean was in sunlight. Well, it makes it possible for that frequency to propagate, even though it's still night here. But you got to look at how big the path of light or darkness is. If you are 1 hour into darkness, you can listen to a station on a higher frequency if it's in daylight, because the propagation, most of the path of the signal is in the daylight. So it's okay. It's going to propagate up to you. It's a question of how much daylight or how much nighttime path that signal has to cross to actually come to your radio. And there are some weirdnesses that you got to understand that only over time. An example is, somebody was telling me once, a couple of months ago, I think it was in July, I posted a video of a ham radio operator in Europe. And the guy said, well, that's impossible, because you say that it's 0230 UTC, your local time, and darkness from Europe to Montreal on 20 meters, on 14 megahertz, a higher frequency. You can be hearing that. And he kind of hinted that I was using an online SDR and faked the video or something. And well, it's because you got to understand one thing. Yeah, it's darkness path if you cross the Atlantic. But remember that in July, early July, the North Pole is in daylight constantly. So they use the trick. Let's broadcast through the North Pole to North America. Because it's daytime at the North Pole, it supports that frequency. So you have 20-meter propagation, but it's from an unusual path, a path you might not use all the time. It's a question of knowledge, and it's a complex thing. I mean, it's always complex to identify and research, but take the time to research. Take the time to make sure that what you are listening to is possible. Take the time to really study the lists of frequencies or whatever website you're using. Make sure they are accurate. Somebody had sent me an email. He did not understand one of the apps on his phone because it was always incorrect. And I told him, I said, well, most apps do it automatically, but some don't. I said, you do go on the upper right corner, click, the menu and update your frequency lists. And he said, oh, I have to do that? Yeah, you got to do that because now you're on frequency lists of last year. And once it was updated, it was fine. It's a lot of info, and it's a complex thing. And it's not, it's an innocent error. I mean, I don't know how many times I have received, I was listening to a station thinking that I was listening to something when I was, in the 80s when I was starting out. I remember I would go down at 3 megahertz and try to hear that Radio Cultural station on 3300 at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, because I didn't understand that at 2 p.m. in the afternoon local, mid-afternoon sunshine time, then that won't be Radio Cultural for what? There won't be any stations pretty much there that you're going to hear, I'll hear CHU because it's really close. That's it. It's an era of not knowing. It's not It's nothing bad. But as you progress into the hobby, it's fun to slowly, get more information and slowly learn more about it, that it will give you that edge of knowing. When I correct somebody on the Facebook group, I'm always a little scared of correcting someone, because I sometimes think, well, maybe somebody's going to say, well, he's on to me. He's always correcting what I'm posting. And the idea behind it is not that I want to correct you or anything, but I like when a posting is accurate. So I will either give my comments of, I think you were listening to that rather than that. Or sometimes some people post videos. I'll say, no, that's not what you were listening to. Because that is that type of programming. So that's that station. It's not what you're thinking. And I'm always a little scared, because I'm like, well, yeah, if I do that 4 or 5 times, the guy's going to stop posting, because he's going to say, well, I'm never right, and he's always correcting me, and I'm not going to post my stuff again. And please do post. It's fine if you post it and it's incorrect. Some of us will correct you and say, hey, I was watching your video, and no, what you're listening to is that station, not what you just mentioned. Just for the record. And you go a little further. Ask what schedules are you using to identify the stations, and so on. There's also that other side that sometimes is difficult to grasp. You'll have a radio that has a very wide bandwidth, or sometimes people put it too wide, and they'll be 5 kilohertz off, and they're going to say, oh, look, I'm on 15600, I'm hearing that station. And you look at it and it's like, well, actually you were on 15595 and you're hearing that station. It's just that your filter is too wide and you're actually listening to it on the wrong frequency. You could see by all of these little details how difficult sometimes it could be for a newcomer to identify something and know what he is listening to for real. And today, at least, there's one thing that's kind of cool, and it's the fact that you are capable of today everybody can easily, and for a very low price, have a radio that has a digital display. And that makes it easier still today. That imagine me and my realistic DX100 that was analog. Oh man, it was crazy to tune. Michael Woods, agree. I went from an RTL that I used for approximately 7 years to the SDR player RSP1A 2 years ago. I haven't plugged in the RTL since. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, well, I've been looking at the Pirates, and there doesn't seem to be anything right now. So nothing on the Pirates HF Underground list for now. Let's check out Spain. Should be in English at this time. Yeah, pretty good signal too. So 9690. So Radio Exterior de España, 9690. And Spain hasn't signed on. Turkey hasn't signed on yet. But Spain on 9690 should be in English now. 22 hours UTC. As we have Charles Ethan. Yeah, 11635 is HM01, the Cuban number station. Louisville, Kentucky. Nice to have you on board. Matt, I see many people in ham groups use their local time all the time. It drives me nuts. Half of the time they don't mention where they are. Shortwave groups are better about that. Oh, Michael Woods. An Android app for UTC called Ham Clock. Oh, let's check it out. Thanks for sharing. Ham clock. Oh, look at that. Ham clock. Install. Love it. So ham clock for Android, and I'm sure there's an equivalent for iPhones on iOS. And open. Look at that. That is great. Look at that. UTC at the top, local time at the bottom. It's a great way to use your device. Great way to use a device, honestly. Thanks for sharing. Yep, same thing, RFDX, or you can ask Siri, you can ask Google Assistant, you can ask Alexa. They're all going to give you what time it is in Universal Time. Rufus Newt sets all his portables to UTC. Take care, René Charbonnier. See you next time. RDXer has 6985 Pirate playing music. That's the one. 6985 is the Pirate in Europe, right? So yeah, it's still early, a little early for 6985 could be coming in. It really shows how the propagation is changing with the season. I mean, the days are getting shorter, and it's really showing on the radio. Mad Reader DXer, I have received signals on the FM band, E-skip, and 10 and 11 meter band. That is not supposed to be received at night, but I did. Don't assume that time of day always determines the signal. Oh, that's for sure. There are some unusual propagation that we talked about. For example, 10 meter band. The 10 meter band could be open at let's put it in another perspective. Is most of the time when it's very long distance, time of the day has some importance. When it tends to be a little closer, say within North America, for example, although it can maybe happen with Europe also. Then you get sporadic e-skip and stuff like that changes the signals you're listening to. So an example of that is having a 10 meter band open at midnight local in total darkness. Sporadic e-skip absolutely will light up that band, or the CUB band, which technically should not be open, but that's different types of propagation. Here we're all dealing tonight more into the rather standard types of propagation. When things are normal, let's call it like that. It's always normal, but when things are like more normal. So what else do we have? Kathleen, interesting stuff about the propagation through the North Pole because of daylight. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot more going on. It's like you gotta understand that. That's why looking at a map of daylight nighttime is nice, because it changes a lot, and it's not always easy to understand why you hear something. But looking at a map and seeing in real time where it's daytime and nighttime helps a lot, and sometimes understanding why a signal that shouldn't be there actually exists on a certain frequency. SoCal says, hey, Simon, J4ELI. Great utility, UTC and local clock with map and gray line. Google Simon Brown G4ELI clock. So you had an app? You made an app, actually? Cool. Gaëtan Bellil. Bonjour et bienvenue. No need to be sorry because you're late. Take care, Catalan. Rob, nice to have you here from Phoenix, Arizona. Casey Red Dragon, nice to have you on board. Uh, 9690 Radio Exterior, great signal, Mountain Valley. Yeah, pager. Yeah, what I used to listen to the pager stuff with a PC app called, I think it was POC32, because it's POXAG. It's an unencrypted thing. So when there's a lot of pagers around, you could all get all of the little messages, text messages being sent with pagers. What else do we have? Keith Abbott says 99 cents on iOS. Well, there must be some iOS app that's free, actually. Crazy Jane 9690, great signal in the UK. Simon Brown also does the SDR console program. Oh, wow. Okay. Thanks for letting us know about all of this. Bigger 7769. Have you ever heard of Channel Master radios? Yeah, mostly CB radios, from what I've seen. But I do have the brand is a known brand. Yes, absolutely. Keegan sets his Grundig S450 DLX field radio and Ethon field BT radio to UTC. Yeah, it's not a complex thing, Eric. I knew you would figure it out quite easily. I'm curious as to what you're going to have as the in the shortwave spectrum, if you're going to have a lot of breakthrough of FM, like I do here. Tristan, good old reliable Radio Romania coming in strong on 7310 in Western Newfoundland. Let's check it out here. 7310. Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Radio Romania in English, 7310. Absolutely. That is the European service, actually, but it's actually making it quite here. I think it's Western Europe, so that's why it's coming in here, because it's kind of sent in our direction. Shelly got 9690 in Pennsylvania too, kind of jazzy music. Yeah, they have a lot of music for sure. Hello, Dr. Sisup. Nice to have you here. Rufus 9690, great signal into the Laurentian Valley, Ontario. What else do we have? WWV and CHU check time. You like that, eh? Let me check out here. So 2500 is not going to make it, that's for sure. 5000. Nothing there. 10 megahertz. Well, I'm hearing on 10 megahertz, I have the impression I'm hearing two different time stations right now. Because while he was talking, I had the impression I was hearing something else. 15 megahertz. Nope. Nothing on 15. It's not propagating today. 20 is not there. 25 is not there. 14670. Nothing here. 7850 for CHU. Nothing much. 3330. That one is always pretty good because I'm close. So 3330. That one's coming in. What else do we have? RFDX standing 310, Radio Romania strong into Iceland SDR. Remote SDR is like going to the DX. John Wayne 9690, Germany, also great. Kamagzi 76, I use that Tom application as well. Very good application. Cool. Like their sysop. I hear some alarms again on CB channel 11A 27095. I thought they were gone there. Huh, interesting. Because 27095 is one of those frequencies for. Isn't that one of the frequencies for like remote control stuff? It's one of those in between channels, if I'm not mistaken. There's 26995, I think, is one. I'm trying to remember the frequencies. 27145, I know, is one. It's like the in between the channels. It was so funny because when I was young, I started with the realistic DX100. I had a Nico 4x4 that was remote control, and it was on channel 27. It was on channel 23, which is 27255, as it is and still is one of those channels that is a CB channel, but also some remote control devices can use that frequency. It would actually have a digital buzz to it that sounded like a TV buzz. And every time I would turn it on, I would actually monitor the CB band at the same time. And sometimes I would hear CBers. One particularly that was not very far was always saying, "That's so weird. There's like a TV buzz on channel 23, you know?" But it was my own remote control thing. Mark, propagation. Weird. What's weird with the propagation? The same day I picked up the Brazilian station I got, or Radio Marti, Ruby 76. When geomagnetic storms hit, there's an altered propagation. Sometimes some frequencies or some regions might actually be more stronger than others. Ricardo Silva, his Huawei phone suddenly woke up and asked to repeat. Well, you know, it happens on all devices. I have my a Google Assistant. It doesn't happen very often, but you have that moment where you're like speaking, and she's like, "I didn't understand what you just said. Can you repeat?" I was like, "I wasn't talking to you. What do you mean?" RFDXer thought I heard French time announcements on 10 megahertz from the Iceland SDR. There shouldn't be anything in French. There could be Italian. 10 megahertz is there's the Italian one, there's a Chinese one, I think there's the Brazilian one in Portuguese also. It could be the Portuguese one you're hearing on 10 megahertz from Iceland. That would work. Yeah, but Iceland is close to the fringe, so you know, even if it's in daylight now, it's very close to the darkness bat. So you will get a lot of stuff from the darkness bat. Hey, Paul McDonald. Yeah, it's a nice globe. I got this as a Christmas gift. Like it. It's fun to have some, you know, a globe or, of course, a wall map while you're listening to shortwave. Yeah, Skywave Schedules is a great application for shortwave schedules. Absolutely, Branson. Skywave Schedules on Android is amazingly good. Crazy Jane says, picking up Brazil on 11925. 11925. What's on 11925 here? Propagation is very weird tonight. Because you 11925. Propagation is extremely bizarre here. 11925. What's on 11925? Because I think it should be. Is it in Spanish, Crazy Jane? Just out of curiosity. Do you understand it in Spanish? Because there's no Brazilian on 11925. And one that you could be hearing right now that could be making it up there is Radio Marti from the United States in Spanish on 11930. So that would be more. So you're hearing 11925 in Iceland. At this time, Reykjavik, Iceland should not have as much light. What language is on 11925? Can you identify the language? Is it Portuguese? Because I don't have any. We are. I'm trying to see here. There's at this time 11925. There's 22. There's China National Radio 1, CNR1 in Chinese. And the only other thing that there's at this time, if there is radio. That's pretty much it. So unless it's something new, the only thing that I would see is in Marti on 1930, but you say that you're getting 11925. Interesting. Okay. That is interesting. So you guys are hearing something on 11925. That is interesting. Huh. Wonder what because the only thing here on the list is CNR1. Let me I'm gonna check out with my phone here. So let's go down to, I'm gonna use an SDR. Okay, SDR. Receiver. Let's go to Ireland. Okay, so I'm going to try this one in Ireland. Okay. Let me try 11925. Oops. So that one's not hearing anything. 11925. I'm hearing Radio Marti. Okay. Apart from that, what is there? Kind of interesting here. I'm trying to tune in to the SDR with my phone. Interesting. Here, the two Ireland ones that I just tried aren't receiving anything on 11925. Huh. That's weird. What else do we have? Madrid the Access says 11925 solved. Just check 11930, and it's in Spanish with Latin American accents. So maybe it's 11925. It's Radio Marti. That's what I'm thinking. Because here, when I choose I just chose two Iceland SDRs, and there's nothing at all on 11925. So that's why I was thinking that maybe it's just that the filters are too wide. So that's something to be careful on SDRs. Make sure that you narrow the filters. If you're using a Kiwi SDR, a lot of them are very wide in their filter. You have to narrow it down at 4 or 6 kilohertz. That's very important. If I look at the, let me check it out here. If I go to the SDR that I was, let me check it out. They have the bandwidth was probably too big. Because it's very important to make sure that the bandwidth when you're listening to a signal isn't more than at the most 6 kilohertz. It's interesting. Shady Pyro 90, 7310, Radio Romania International, talking about fake news. Yeah, they were talking about it this week, absolutely. Crazy Jane, I like Radio Martini better than Radio Marti. Let's have Radio Martini. Radio Marti with martinis, Keegan. Yeah, if you are listening to Mandarin, it's China. Because CNR1 is on 11925. So that would be the CNR1 Chinese station. That would be possible. That would be a possible one. So Mandarin would confirm that it's China National Radio 1. For sure. KC Red Dragon, 11940 is Radio Exterior de España. Let's listen to Radio Marti with martinis. That's good. And get to the beach. We'll head on to the beach, have a martini, listen to Radio Marti. How about that? Let's all meet. We'll need to have social distancing. Yeah, that's the amateur radio band, KC Red Dragon. 14110. Keegan says, sounds good. Yeah, it would. We all bring a portable radio. For those that don't have portable radios, I have enough to bring a lot of portable radios. Canadian Radio TV guy. Nice to have you here. Radio martinis made with 100% RF. Mad Reader DXer just checked Iceland SDR in 11925. It's CNR1 from China. 11930 Radio Marti is very wide and splattering on 11925. Cool. Cool. And Mad Reader DXer can definitely hear Chinese language spoken. Cool. DXer is down for that. Radio Martini. Oh, man. So it's solved. Does RF cause cancer? There's no definite answer to that question. For the most part, so RF is non-ionizing, so technically it doesn't damage the DNA. But that said, there are some possible studies that say that people that live near very high RF level environments maybe have a little more cancer than the average population. But there was never a clear study that could really say, yes, cancer. But it is, they did put that in a list where they, I think the World Health Organization has it in a list that it's hazardous. It could but we don't know. So it's, you don't know. I think we can't say no. I think no is not the proper answer. Is we don't know, because it doesn't mean. And a lot of research are saying that there's possibilities. An example of that, I remember there's because remember, guys, when the cell phones were getting more popular, there was that craze that we all get brain cancer and that everything would be and there were a lot of studies that were done at the time, and they all pretty much said, well, no, it doesn't seem like it. I think the answer would be in a normal environment of signals that are in a tolerable um, level. It probably doesn't impact enough to cause cancer or anything. But I think that if you would live in a very high level environment of very high intense radio waves, that's another story, because it could have an impact. For the most part, like a microwave excites the water molecules, but it doesn't say that in a very high RF environment, and I mean a very high one, that there's no other interactions possible. So I think the definitive answer is we don't know. I don't think nobody can say no, there's no danger. And nobody can also say, yes, we will have cancer. It's very much in a we don't know zone more than anything else. I remember reading could it be or not? I was thinking of Sackville, Canada here. So about something like 10 years ago, I remember reading an article where people that live near Vatican Radio has very high power transmitters, and they had a medium wave, a very, very high powered medium wave or long wave one. I don't remember if it's medium wave or long wave. The city next to these antennas, there was kind of a lawsuit where apparently there was a slightly, not by much, but a slightly higher rate of certain types of cancer. And for a while, there was dispute that the transmitter sites could have been the cause of it. Could it? Could it not? One thing for sure, I would not like to live next to a 1 million watt transmitter. Even the cell phone towers, I would not like to live just underneath one. So it's difficult to, I think there's no definitive answer. The answer is no definitive answer. And remember that the higher the frequency, the more power it has. So, it's possible. We don't know. Honestly, we don't know. There's not been enough studies, I think, to really say that it could, or not. When, for those that have seen the Sackville, the documentary Spectres of Shortwave, and where you hear and see the Sackville residents with all the they would hear radio waves everywhere. I think what we have to understand is that radio waves, really diminish in strength in a very, very fast manner. I mean, every time you double the distance of a transmitter, you actually have 4 times less RF energy. So I think at the levels where we live at a certain distance, probably there's nothing really that happens. But I think it could be very different if we would live right next to a transmitter. I remember one study, and I think it was is the ARRL that had that study. But it has so many different ways and causes. I remember someone telling me, look, that study from ARRL says that ham radio operators have a higher rate of certain cancers than the average population. And that person made 1 + 1 = 2, made so that RF energy is making cancer. And I said, wait, it doesn't say where it comes from. It says ham radio operators tend to have a slightly higher rate of cancer. I said it could be from RF, okay, but what do ham radio operators and radio listeners and us, the geeks, have in common? We play with electronics all the time. Have you guys ever seen the amazing quantity of chemicals they put on circuit boards and in devices? It could be simply because we are near electronic devices that were made with all sorts of chemicals, and those chemicals could be the cause of. I don't remember the name of it, but there's that fire retardant that they put on the circuit boards of every electronic device, because if it catches fire, it's supposed to not, like start a fire in your home. But that thing, there's proof that when you have that new radio smell, that new computer smell, that new TV smell, when you turn it on, well, part of it is that chemical they put for the fire retardant. That is actually known to be a cancer causing agent. So, you can't, when somebody tells me, well, it's proved it's RF. No, it could be more proof that we're actually playing with chemicals all the time. My uncle, that was a TV repair guy, died of cancer at 54, 55 years old. When he died, my first thinking was, did playing around with all the electronics and the soldering iron and that smoke, that soldering smoke coming out, all of that, could that have caused cancer? That's a pretty good question, Dr. Sisop, soon US will extend the FM band from 64 108, and DAB Plus radio will be available, and HD radio will end as the cost too high. Not many markets have it. So, going to be interesting to see. Joe Tyson, Google ARRL RF exposure for what hams have to learn for the advanced tests. Yep, there are limits where you shouldn't cross a certain level of exposure to RF radiation. That's for sure. Paul McDonald looking to his south window. The smoke is so bad that he can barely see down the walkway for the next street. Inside listening to this show for a reason. Wow. Yeah, soldering, all of that, Oh, that's for sure. There's exposure to pretty much everything. And, it's, you got to take precautions, I think. Ricardo Silva says, always take precautions. Strong and constant RF is no good for your health. And there's a lot of chemicals and a lot of stuff, So, it's pretty interesting. And, there's no definitive answer. We can't say no and we can't say yes. We just don't really know. Joe Tyson says we're bathed in cosmic background microwave radiation. Yeah, but that's very weak. The background microwave radiation is just like super weak. What we do in our own radiations with RF is much higher than the background that from the universe, you know. But there are some levels, you know. Yep, soldering smoke is very dangerous. Absolutely. How's the new beer? It's good. I like it. Pretty like it. Really do like it a lot. Really nice. I'm gonna keep the rest for the next shows. Casey Red Dragon. I think lead can cause both of those answers. It could cause cancer, and it could, of course, do a lot of damage. That's for sure. Also, because it has it has a lot of interactions in our body, which isn't nice. Jeff Barrett, when I went to college for radiologic technology, told us about radium watch dial painters that died horrible deaths from oral cancers. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there's so many chemicals used. You know, where we have regulations that kind of lower the amount of really dangerous stuff today, but I mean, there was a time when you know, you could almost play with a ball of. You would have been given a ball of plutonium, and they would say, "Oh yeah, that's cool. Look at that, you glow in the dark." It'd be like Homer Simpson when he gets into that X-ray machine, and the doctor asks to put the radioactive dye in his body so that he can see his arteries, and and he looks at it and says, "Oh wow, she just injected the dye," and she says, "I haven't injected it yet." All of that because he comes from the the nuclear plant, you know. Oh man. That happens, Mark. Sometimes you can, for some reason, be slow and have to catch up with the show. It happens because I see sometimes one. It happens from time to time that somebody will answer a question or give a comment on something I said a half an hour ago, and I'm like, "Oops, I think they're far behind in the chat in the live show." Oh yeah, RF burns, absolutely. RF burns. I remember not thinking about it, and I was touching the antenna of my CB, and I wanted to transmit, and I remember really leaving that antenna alone real fast, real fast. Oh man. No, absolutely. There needs to be a whole number of studies done by independent, you know, organizations, um, to know what exactly. But I think it's safe to say that what RF burn feels like, Casey Red Dragon, it's like somebody. Imagine you're being pinched very hard. That's pretty much what it feels like. Yeah, Rufus Newt, absolutely. There are things that we did in the past that like, you know, it's crazy today. You're like, wow, there's like, you know, they wouldn't do that today. So many things we did in the past and our when we were in school that today they would say we're nuts to do that. Technically, on shortwave bands and low frequencies, shortwave, medium wave, smoke fire should not change anything into the propagation of radio signals. That said, the higher the frequencies we use, the more the environment and the particles of the atmosphere can interact with the frequency with the RF propagation. So there could be in very high frequencies somewhat of a effect of the smoke particles, basically. Yeah, I've been electrocuted a few times for sure. Yeah, Marie Curie, absolutely. Playing around with uranium just for the fun of it. Let's just do it for the fun of it. Let's play with uranium. Jeff Barrett played with mercury from broken glass thermometers. It turned out okay. It's mostly when you're very young. It's like lead poisoning. You guys remember when gasoline used to have lead in it? Well, if you were too close to that as an adult, very often it could have repercussions in motricity. I think in the way that you move and how your body reacts. But it's mostly the young generation, the kids. The kids, they're growing up, their system is like in hyperspeed, and they are actually that's the time where everything is being constructed in the body, your brain, everything. Those were the ones really affected by lead, for example. Like I said, Casey Red Dragon, the higher the frequency, the smaller the wavelength, and the more small particles can actually interact and have an effect in block RF. So, in very high frequencies, the rain, the just look at the radar. Radar uses very high gigahertz frequencies in general. They reflect when it's raining. They have that rain reflection in it. That's because part of the RF has bounced off the rain droplets. So yes, the higher in frequency, but and in general, the HF spectrum, 30 megahertz and below, not much really affects the propagation of those signals. The wavelengths are too big. Because there could be like RFDXer says, when Mount St. Helens blew up, propagated VHF, FM, and TV from Edmonton and Calgary. There's also all sorts of phenomena that could happen in there while the particles are moving up in the atmosphere. There could be some sort of ionization going on with the higher atmosphere and stuff. So that's also possible. Concertis. Yeah, well, I lose mine all the time. That was a question all the time. When I was a tech guy and I would go to clients' homes, a lot of clients would shut down the routers, Wi-Fi routers at night because they were scared of radiation. And it was a question that I got asked quite often as a tech guy. Should I shut down my Wi-Fi at night? Are you scared of the radiation coming out of it? So for one thing, it does save electricity, that's for sure. But apart from that, the power levels are too low. I don't think there's any interaction with power levels so low. Your router is weaker, much weaker than your smartphone, actually. And for the most part, I don't think it has any effect. Casey Red Dragon. So a cloud day won't help propagation. Nope, not on HF. On HF, medium wave, long wave, raining, sunny, cloudy, has zero effect on the propagation of waves. But higher, another example of to see how there is an interaction. Anybody that had satellite TV, those frequencies were very high in the gigahertz range. Well, if it rained, you'd lose the signal. Why? Because the rain would attenuate at that high frequency. But in shortwave, the same rain because of the it has mostly to do with the wavelength. When the wavelengths get so small that they are the size of objects around you, that's where they could be blocked. RFDXer, one has to wonder about 5G. 5G is depends on the frequency you're going to use. The problem with 5G is not necessarily the I would say that 5G, what is difficult is that at the high frequency they're using, it has less range. So they'll have to put more repeaters, more antennas. That's where 5G could technically be some kind of a problem. It depends at the frequency, and it depends on how much energy is going to be. You know? Tristan says, from what I understand, 5G operates between 40 and 60 gigahertz. I imagine the range will be very limited. They must have a lot of transmitters to give the proper coverage. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. The problem with 5G is that if they use really high frequencies, that's where something can happen. That's where you'll need a lot more antennas, and that might be a game changer as to what is safe and what is not. We'll have to see over time. 5G operates not just between 40 and 60 gigahertz, actually. 5G starts at something like 3 or 4 gigahertz and has different there's different frequencies they can use up to because 5G isn't a frequency thing. It's really the generation of the protocols and the transmissions. The frequencies used is different. It's not just 5G that is there, but it could be anywhere from about 3 gigahertz all the way up to I've seen some 5G proposals for like 100 gigahertz, and you're like, yeah, it's because at that range, at that frequency, the range really, really becomes very small. Yeah, it could start probably lower, I would guess. Most of the 5G I've seen starts roughly at a couple of gigahertz, but it's possible that some of the lower bands can be used also. Metam Valley, what's fascinating is that sufficient wildfire smoke can generate lightning. Yep, absolutely. It's hey Page Master, nice to have you here from Moore, Oklahoma. It's really a question of that. It's the blockage of a signal has a lot to do with the size of the wavelength. You could block 20, 30 gigahertz frequencies with a sheet of paper. A plain sheet of paper would block it. Yep, there was a lot of big scare, and a lot of they were thinking everybody would have brain cancer. And it never. We don't have a higher rate of brain cancer now than 30 years ago. So imagine me as a tech guy, how much time I before, because when I started, it was before the smartphone. How much time I spent on my cell phone like this for a while. So it's crazy. Yeah, that has more to do with another thing, RFDXer. It has more to do with the construction of the overpass. If they use concrete Also, there's a lot of interaction with the radio waves. I still remember being fascinated when we would go up north. There was a place we would go under power lines. And I was fascinated by the fact that going under the high power lines of Hydro-Quebec, all medium wave reception in the radio, on the car radio, would stop. And then it would come back on after we passed the power lines. It's crazy. So, hey guys, we've been on for 2 hours and 50 minutes. Hope you enjoyed today's show. I will head on to my barbecue and make some juicy hamburgers. And I will be back next week, and hopefully we'll have a great show again coming next week. Two shows next week once again. Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 0 hours UTC. And Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, and 20 hours Universal Time. Have a great weekend, everybody. Love you all. Stay safe. No COVID anywhere, please. And we're gonna see you. Soon. For sure. Next week. And after the hamburgers, I'm probably going to be a little bit of radio tonight. So stay safe, everybody. Take care. Love you all. Okay. Yeah, Facebook, the great place to continue the show. Absolutely. Bye.